guys, just wanted to give a shout out to everyone who watched my last video. Thank you. A special thank you to my sister Marissa, who told me she tried to watch it multiple times to try and get the view up. So I know I said in the last video I was going to follow YouTube tutorials, but I was like, I really have this idea. I've sort of figured out in my head how it works out, and now I'm just going to translate it. But it was supposed to be this one. I bought this fabric in January and it's very light, and I was like, this will be great as like an overcoat for summer, so when I go to the beach I can just chuck it over my bathers and then just peel it off, you know, kind of like a really long cardigan. It is May 31st today. We are one day away from winter. I don't really think I'm gonna you know, need like to go to the beach in winter. I think like I need a bigger jumper. Like tomorrow is the first day of winter. So like I want to make a proper jumper. I'm gonna make a proper jumper. So first things first, I gotta go get the fabric. Let's go. So just had to make a quick side stop because we have a barbecue for Paul's family tonight. Just stopping by Aldi to get some stuff for it. But given Aldi's history, we may just find my fabric here. Let's find out. So we're home. We've returned from our shopping trip, we've had lunch. So I kind of had this idea of a yellow fleecy fabric, like, I don't know, like, not like yellow, but I think you know which yellow I'm talking about, the one that looks really nice. They didn't have anything like that. All they had was these horrible yellows. So I got purple. It looks kind of nice. It's nice and warm. It feels like a blanket, so it should be good material to make a jumper. I also got new scissors because my other ones are dying. So I think I shouldn't do that. So I think I've got this figured out, but the only way I'm gonna find out is if I try. So let's begin. So I started out this project by laying the fabric out on the ground, similar to how I did with the pants. I flipped it over and laid down and measured my arm against it. I realized that there would be enough material to cut it in half and I'd have the two sleeves. So I did that. So after cutting out the two sections of the sleeves, I then laid down next to it again and pinned the shape of my arm down. I then cut that out on one and then use that as a sort of guide on the other one. I did cut it out a little bit too small, like I made it quite tight fitted, which if I were to do it again, I would make it a little bit longer. But anyway, in the end, we ended up with two separate sleeve sections, which then had to be pinned together and sewed. So I flipped these the other way around and then started pinning them together so that I would have a nice firm seam. Wasn't very hard. I will say that I would have liked to make them a little bit bigger. They did end up being a little bit too small, but that's okay. So I made the sleeves slightly too small, like I've rolled them up my arm. I can't quite get them up my shoulder. I can just see this being a problem later, so I laid them out. I'm just gonna cut probably an extra inch around them. Finally, thank you charcoal. Finally made the sleeves big enough. Made them too big, but I can always make them smaller. I can't always make them bigger. Time to work on the torso. Charcoal's out there hanging out by our makeshift fence because our other one blew down in the storm the other day. So I might get some rain soon. Chucky! Oh, here he comes. Oh. Bye. This is all the fabric I have left. This is all the fabric I have left after my failed attempts at making sleeves. I cannot stuff up the vest area, chest. So I laid down on the fabric and realised it was the right size and length that I wanted, so I just folded it over and decided to cut out a neck hole and then sew along the sides. Unfortunately, I did cut out the neck hole way too big. Okay, yeah. I think I'm done. Don't really need sleeves, any of that. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, perfect. Done. Can't really complain. That's what I wanted. Yep. So So moving on to those side pieces, I sewed up along the edges, just leaving a gap from the top so that I could still attach the sleeves. So we have to go to the barbecue now, and this is where I'm at. I won't be able to work on this until tomorrow afternoon because I have work in the morning, but I've kind of created a top. Like, I feel like I could take my shirt off, even though it's not hemmed, and wear this to the barbecue, and I don't think anyone would know that it's not legit. Ooh, no, I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, I feel like I can fly. Like, I have wings. Alright, so the plan at the moment, I've safety pinned this to the top of my shirt, and I'm just taking like this extra material and just putting some pins in. So like my wrist, for example, is, well, my wrist is here, so I'm going to get rid of that much material. I'm just going to pin it, take it off, sew along the pins, and then just cut the excess off, so I'll have an extra seam. So I did just that. I started pinning along the edges to create an extra seam, and then once I was happy with the result and I still had room to move around in the jumper, I sewed it and then cut off the excess and ended up with sleeves. Once I finished the sleeves, I started attaching them to the jumper. I did make a few mistakes doing this, but I have learnt what I've done wrong, so we won't do that next time, will we? This looks quite good, yeah? Like, that's a nice seam on the inside. Looks nice. I stuffed up. This is what it will look like on the outside of the jumper. I don't know how to fix this, but I will work something out. So I have made some mistakes with this jumper that I probably wouldn't have made if I knew what I was doing. Don't know what I'm doing, so I made the mistakes. Like this one, for example. Obviously I could just cut that off and hem the edge, but even like I made the collar too big, and yeah, get some detail just here. Stuffed up the seam a little bit. I don't really have any fabric left, but it wasn't particularly expensive. It was only about $5 or $6 a meter, so I think I'm just gonna go to the shop and get a couple more meters and just restart. At least I've learned something. They had the same one. I knew it wasn't expensive. It was only $5.40 a meter, so at least they still had it. Take 2 of making this jumper. Just a little bit of hemming. I've got to cut the sleeves a little bit because my hands are not that long. A little bit of hemming to do, and it's done. It's exciting to do this. So I cut the excess of the jumper off at the knuckles instead of the wrist because I still wanted to leave a little bit of room for when I was hemming it so that it wouldn't be too short. I don't like jumpers that ride up all the time and leave your wrists exposed. I then took it off and pinned along the bottom hems. I wanted to do a rolled hem, but this fabric was just too thick for that. I also hemmed around the neck and then started sewing. When I was ready to start sewing the sleeves, I got a little bit of elastic, measured it around my wrist, tied that off, and then put that inside of the hem that I put on the end of the sleeves, just so it wasn't so open and gapey. The next step was just to finish up with all the hemming and all the pins I had in place, just finishing up the collar and everything, and then pretty much the jumper was done. It's done! But is it finished? One thing I did stuff up is these little bits of my arm. I think I figured out as I finished it what I was doing wrong. But I have an idea of how to fix that. I'm gonna try it on this one. Why does that look so close on camera? I'm gonna try it on this one first because I've done it on here as well. So we'll see. Spoiler alert, I did not practice on my spare jumper like I should have. So I got my gold material out of the cupboard. I thought I had a red one, but this one worked fine anyway. I cut off 2 side pieces to turn to straps, then began trying to cut out a love heart. I did stuff it up a little bit, so I used the first design to try and help make the second one, laid it out on my jumper and cut off the excess, and then moved on to those straps. So I pinned down the straps on the edges because I just wanted it to have like a nice firm edge. I didn't want it to look cut. And then I sewed them flat and made just like 2 little straps to cover up the seams. Back to the love heart, I went and got a book from my bookshelf. I'm using a Harry Potter pop-up book that I've had for quite a few years. I placed that underneath the love heart for stability so that I wasn't pinning the top fabric to the back fabric, and I just started pinning that. Once I pinned it in place, I sewed around the edges and basically just traced the shape of the love heart. Pretty much that simple, and then I had a love heart on my jumper. Once the love heart was in place, it was just a matter of pinning and sewing on those straps I'd previously made so that they would cover up that seam I'd stuffed up, and then the jumper was pretty much done. And it's done, and I really love the way this jumper turned out. I really love like the sleeves, the love heart, everything. Like I'm really in love with this. Thank you to everyone who watched this video. I really appreciate your support. I love you all, and hopefully I'll see you next time for my next project.